It is an everyday, Dub Nation, where the Warriors lose a game and I come out of it stoked. I was happy. That was effort, that was energy, and a glimpse of the future. And I have KRON sports reporter Kylen Mills joining me to dissect that and so much more. Kylen, you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. And I'm on the same page as you, Cyrus. I was actually really excited and encouraged after that loss last night. Can't say that about the previous four, but last night, totally different story. Love the energy from the young guys.
Absolutely. And we'll break all that down next on Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. Her name is Kylen Mills. She's a sports reporter for KRON 4 in the San Francisco Bay Area. You can follow her on Twitter at Kylen Mills. You can follow me on Twitter at Dog Surf Roadshow and this program on Twitter at Locked On Dubs. I guess first things first, Kylen, did I get the title correct? Sports reporter, is that accurate?
Sports reporter, anchor, do a little bit of everything. That's how it goes in the TV business these days. I host. We have Hoop Session, 30-minute show all about basketball on Sunday nights. A little plug there, but, a little bit of everything.
Plug away. It sounds like you're a Swiss Army knife of the KRON Sports Department. I love it.
Yeah. That's the way the business, though. Everyone's got to be multi-talented,
Have to be. No, my day job as a professor, and I teach my students that all day, is that you can't just come in here expecting because you're a great writer, because you're a great broadcaster, that you're going to succeed. You got to be a jack of all trades now. And that's a great lesson. We'll delve into your career later because I love getting into it in terms of learning about people's backgrounds, getting new perspective in the process, not just for myself, but for the whole audience so they can learn more about you. But first things first, the Warriors, again, they traveled to Denver. This was a makeup game from an original game that was postponed, I believe, back in December. Correct me if I'm wrong there. Yes. But the Nuggets were dealing with COVID issues, health and safety protocols. And so the NBA threw them a bone, rescheduled the game at the Warriors' detriment because they scheduled it as a back-to-back and here in March. And so the Warriors didn't send the majority of their veterans. We didn't see Stephen Curry. We didn't see Klay Thompson. We didn't see Andrew Wiggins. But the players we did see were the youth. The players we did see were not necessarily the present, although in a lot of regards it is, but certainly the future. Like I saw 5 years from now, like, whoa, this thing could be a whole new fun ride then. Give us your takeaway from that game and your feelings about the Warriors after that loss.
Yeah, Cyrus, I was invigorated by the loss. And first of all, we have to talk about the performance of Moses Moody. My goodness, the flashes we saw from him. I mean, he was just going at it, aggressive, confident. I mean, you don't always see that with a rookie. This is his first year in the NBA. He is 19 years old, 30 points against the Denver Nuggets, who are pretty much with their entire squad. I mean, when you look at the two teams and how they stacked up, the Warriors with a 9-man rotation playing both of their two-way players as well. Against basically, like I said, the Nuggets' entire squad was healthy aside from those long-term injuries they're dealing with, like, for example, Jamal Murray, some of the surgeries. But aside from that, and the Nuggets are hot. They were 8-2 going into that game. And then you look at who the Warriors put out there and the fact they made it competitive, just so encouraging. But Moses Moody, I really like what we saw from him. I think that he has a bright future in the NBA. We've already, a lot of people have already dissected Jonathan Kuminga's performance and how much potential he has in the NBA, the athleticism. I mean, he is just incredible. So we kind of already knew a little bit of that. But Moody, just getting more minutes, I was really impressed. Also, Jordan Poole, we already kind of saw some of his potential when he was starting in place of Klay Thompson earlier this season. And we've seen his emergence really into this leader and this juggernaut. But again, love to see that from him, 32 points. I mean, I was encouraged.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of Dub Nation was encouraged just from the effort. There was a considerable amount of lethargy from this team in the last few games where you saw apathy. Wiggins is certainly on my radar right now for players that really need to turn it around just because he's been struggling he hasn't scored 20 or more points since January. I presented stats earlier this week or late last week where he's decided to abandon the easy shots, being inside the paint, in exchange for threes and long twos and who knows what the reason is behind that, but hopefully he can turn it around. I want to throw an idea out to you, Kylen. This is just something that popped in my head last night. I haven't even thrown this out on Twitter yet. When you look at this Warriors team right now, you're seeing some glimpses of the Spurs dynasty in terms of a model that they're following, a pattern that they're trying to emulate. I think they're the beginning part of this Warriors dynasty, the 3 championships in 5 years. You know, we talked about Steve Kerr having played under both Phil Jackson and Greg Popovich and kind of taking the best of both.
You
But
see those coaches and him for sure.
yeah, so here's what I want to throw to you, and you could be my first focus group in terms of whether or not this is a horrible idea or maybe there's something here, and that is moving Klay Thompson to the bench. Manu Ginobili is a Hall of Famer who made that change. He became one of the best 6 men this game's ever seen, and the Spurs won, I believe, 2 of those 5 championships with Ginobili coming off the bench. Klay Thompson, look, man, I love him. He's like my soul brother. You said you're a dog person before we started. I mean, every time I see Rocco, my heart just melts. Makes me think of my dog, and who passed away recently. And I just love Klay. I mean, he's quite possibly the most popular player in the NBA. I just don't know many people who actually dislike him. What do you think about that? Do you think that because Jordan Poole clearly loves starting, it would engage him more off the bat? Your second unit would suddenly have a future Hall of Famer coming off, and it would give him a chance to ease into things more. Am I talking crazy? What are your thoughts on that?
No, I don't think you're talking crazy. It's a little bit of a hot take, but I like it. Here's the thing that Jason, my sports director, and I were just talking about earlier this week. It seems like since Klay Thompson has been back, he's thrown off the team's rhythm. And I hate to say that, but this team was really gelling. And then you look at Klay Thompson's return in January, and we've seen this recent down stretch. And I feel like the Warriors just had such a good rotation going. And Klay, he's not fully Klay yet. We've seen him recently forcing shots, forcing the game. Head coach Steve Kerr has talked about him needing to let the game come to him. And I don't think it would be a bad move to slide him to the bench, because I think that part of Wiggins' struggles recently, he hasn't been attacking like he was prior to Klay coming back. Jordan Poole's struggles recently coming off the bench. I think that's partially just because Klay Thompson is back on the floor, and he really, takes a lot of the ball on offense, and he takes away, I think, some of the opportunities from those guys who are now trying to figure out, where do I fit in? And my only concern is that Klay Thompson is a player who they're wanting to really build up his confidence right now, coming back from an injury. So how mentally does he handle that if he does get moved to the bench? Because he's never been in that role his entire career. I mean, could that just put Klay Thompson under? I don't know, but that would be my only concern, is trying to build up his confidence after the injury has definitely been something that head coach Steve Kerr has zoned in on. He continues to say, I've got faith in Klay. I have confidence in Klay. Klay is going to find his rhythm. Klay is going to get back to the way that he was playing prior to all of these injuries. So you can tell that he's really trying to boost him up. How would he handle moving to the bench, though?
Exactly. And if he's cool with it, I honestly don't see a problem with it. I mean, ultimately, it's the closing lineup that matters most. But the Warriors are struggling at the start of these games. They're giving up a lot of points, and I really think that could be a move. By the way, you mentioned, is it Jason Dumas? Is that how you pronounce his last name?
Yeah.
He's got some connections. Like, I see him tweet some info from all around the NBA sometimes, and I'm going how did he learn that? I mean, he breaks news pertaining to Ben Simmons. I think it was one time. I don't know who it was. Yeah, what's his background? Do you guys work? I don't want to talk about him that much, but
yes. However, he's my sports director. We work hand in hand. Like I said, we co-host this show, Hoop Session, together. A lot of fun. He is a Philly native, so you have seen him probably with some hot takes or some really inside looks at the whole Ben Simmons situation, and he's got some really good ties for the 76ers. So if you're looking for Philly news, follow Jason Dumas. He's got some inside sources that I cannot divulge, but he's really on the up and up, especially when it comes to some of the East Coast connections.
Oh, he's got connections. Yeah. But every time I see that, I'm just blown away. I'm like, how does he know that? And it's like national breaking news. Anyways, we got Kylen Mills here with me on Locked On Warriors. And I want to just add before we talk about a longtime sponsor of this program, BetOnline, Moses Moody, his 30-point performance, I believe, is the most by any Warriors rookie in their franchise's history. I believe, or I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. He is the youngest Warriors player in the history of the franchise to score 30 points. I think that's accurate. He wouldn't be the first rookie. But at 19 years old, from to hit the 30-point mark, he also scored 22 in the first half, which was not a team record for a rookie. Stephen Curry scored 26 one time, but still, your boy Moody. I know you've been talking about him on social media a lot, and he's sneaky big. I like him when he's posting up and attacking the paint just because he's a big body. Like, people have a hard time manhandling him. I think Kerr referenced the comparisons to Klay Thompson when they drafted Thompson, as well as being a bigger shooting guard with a shooter's touch. I'm stoked on that. I know you are too. Let's talk about BetOnline real quick, because folks, you want to make money while having fun doing it, and BetOnline is the way to do it. Football might be over for the season, but basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. And in just a moment, Kylen is going to provide the odds for tonight's Warriors-Clippers game. I believe tip-off is at 7 p.m., courtesy of betonline.net. From all the latest odds, totals, player performance props, to where the next fired coach is going to land, betonline.net is the number one spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC odds, in addition to giving you the latest odds on all the Warriors action. Kylen, what is the line for tonight's Clippers game? I am curious. I have no idea.
So money line -235 for the Warriors. The spread -6 for the Warriors. I'm curious as to what you think about that, Cyrus.
Wait, so you mean the money line is plus 235 for the Clippers, but the Warriors are favored by
Plus
6? Is that correct?
190 -235 for the Warriors is money.
There we go. Okay, so geez, I don't want to touch that. What do you think? The Warriors have become a very hard team to bet on. They were fantastic against the spread the first 2-3 months. William, what are your thoughts?
I wouldn't touch this. I wouldn't touch this with a 6-foot pole, to be quite honest. Like you said, the crazy thing is, I think it was through the first 30 games, the Warriors covered the spread every single game. So I loved the Warriors for so long, but now it's like, my goodness, they just have not been able to have that get-right game that they needed, and they struggled against the Clippers just 3 weeks ago. So I don't feel great heading into tonight, and I would have a hard time putting my money on the Warriors for this one. As much as I love this team, I don't feel confident.
I agree. And I think a huge reason why that spread is so big is because the Warriors do not go on losing streaks like they are now. They've lost, is it 5 in a row now? Is that where they're at? 4 or 5?
Yeah, so they've lost 5 in a row after last.
Yeah, so my guess is angry Stephen Curry's coming, and you never want to bet against that. But at the same time, that's a big spread. So, look, Dub Nation, we have some great news to talk about in just a moment with Kylen Mills. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast, nightly recaps of every NBA game with analysis from our local experts. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. She's Kylen Mills. You can follow her on Twitter at Kylen Mills. It's super easy. I'm a little more difficult. Cyrus Saatsaz is my name. Dogsurf Roadshow is my Twitter account. Kylen, is NBC Sports Bay Area a competitor of yours? Are you buddies? How is that relationship?
So technically, since they're like a local regional rather than local cable channel, they don't necessarily directly compete like the local TV stations that are ABC, NBC Bay Area rather than NBC Sports Bay Area. Relationship is good. Nice. I love all the people at NBC Sports Bay Area as well. All their Warriors squad is the best. I get to see them out at games. I'm going tonight, and they're all super cool. So relationship is great. What do you got to throw at me?
Well, this is exciting. It's a Monty Poole, a longtime Bay Area journalist. He's someone who I certainly trust, and certainly has incredible connections and insights. So after the game last night, he was on what is technically a competitor of ours, but I don't care. It's Dubs Talk. It's their podcast with Grant Liffman and Kareth Burke, and they had Monty on, and Monty revealed that next week, when the Warriors have a homestand, is when we're reportedly going to see Draymond Green, who himself announced that he's going to be playing on March 14th, Stephen Curry's birthday. But Andre Igoudala and James Wiseman, according to Monty Poole, what he's hearing, this is speculation, but from very valid sources, that all three of these gentlemen are going to be playing. This is the size they needed. This is the reinforcements they needed. I've been having gripes with this front office for a while now just because of the inactivity with all these injuries and the lack of front court depth. What are you feeling about this news that they could have the whole squad back next week, preparing for that postseason push? Your thoughts?
That would be crucial to get those guys back next week with time to help this team get back into a rhythm and to right the ship. I mean, there's still enough games left in the season where we're not completely up against the clock. We're not completely pressing the panic button, but it does take time to reincorporate those players back into the lineup. My goodness, that would be amazing news, though. Also, it would give James Wiseman a little bit of time to get some game action before you're looking at postseason game action. However, I do want to throw this to you and what your take is. There have been a lot of rumors that the Warriors don't necessarily plan to use Wiseman in big minutes when it comes time for the postseason. I don't see how they don't use him because of the size issues that you just mentioned. Even with Draymond Green back, like Kevon Looney has just got so many miles on him this season, and you need another big. Wiseman would add some rim protection they've needed. What do you think about how they might use Wiseman in the postseason?
Thanks. So look at you, big turning reporter on me here, asking me questions. I love it.
Yes.
Look, so Dieter and a few others are of the belief, and I believe you're citing an athletic story, which stated that one of the Warriors assistant coaches indicated that Wiseman was not part of the plan this year. Yes. So one of my great friends, Hall of Famer Rick Barry, and I talked about this at length, and I've talked to other former players at length, and the general consensus, I haven't heard otherwise. The consensus from former players, and you yourself are an athlete, you played college ball, I believe, a different sport, but we'll talk about that in a moment. So but you have that perspective, and I've played most of my life. I just never had the athleticism to reach any sort of NCAA level, but I don't see why you wouldn't play him. I don't think the Warriors system is so complicated that Wiseman cannot contribute given his size and skill set. He's quick. That is one of the huge positives of him, and why so many players still rave about him. Many former players rave about him is that he has tremendous speed given his size. Yeah. He glides on the court. He covers a lot of space in very short distances. I do not see the harm in playing him, and I don't see why you wouldn't. So. But again, like you said, there is a Warriors coach out there who hinted he wouldn't. If that's the case, I wouldn't like it. I want to see him. He's the number 2 pick from a year ago. He played 39 games last year, started 27 of them. And newsflash, his stats were not that bad. He averaged 21 minutes per game, put up 12.5 points, nearly 6 rebounds in limited play. And you're adding a year of wisdom. He turns 21, I believe, at the end of this month. So I want to see him. I hope that happens. They need the size, and thanks for asking me, because I certainly had opinions on it. What about you? What are your opinions on it? What do you think? Like, do you think personally they should play him?
I think they should, and especially if he is coming back next week and he does get some regular season game action. Why not? Why not? Totally. I think they need him in the rotation. They need the size. Like I said, I like the rim protection. You mentioned his quickness, his athleticism. He's been working a lot on his ball control, on some of his post moves, passing. I mean, I've seen him putting in a ton of work when I've been out at practice, and he hasn't been able to play in scrimmages. I haven't been back out, and I haven't seen him scrimmage, so I don't want to mislead. But when he's been doing some of that drill work, like, he's been putting in the work that he needs to do to still get better, even though he hasn't been able to play. So I'm very curious to see what his skill set looks like coming back out into the NBA floor. I mean, you mentioned we saw him in, a limited scope last season due to the injury. I don't think we've seen even close to what his potential is. So one thing that does make me really mad is how many people have written off James Wiseman, because I know we talked about all the factors, but the fact that he played in 3 games in college and then was thrown into an NBA season where they were dealing with COVID and didn't really get a preseason, a training camp, wasn't able to work out and lead into that season like you normally would. He deals with injuries all season, even before the meniscus tear. He had a couple of injuries, and now he's just coming back towards the end of his second season. So give him a little bit of time. And head coach Steve Kerr has said several times, and people all of a sudden go crazy because he's like, hey, we need to temper the expectations. Give him a little bit of time to get back into a groove. And people are like, oh, well, Wiseman's done. He's, whatever. He was a bust. But it's like, let's give him a little bit of time. He's still so young, and we have not even seen nearly enough of him on an NBA floor to make that determination.
100% agree with you. Kevin Dana, the voice of the Santa Cruz Warriors, was on here, and he put it in such great perspective. He said, Joel Embiid didn't play his first 2 years. And it's just the bust label is really harsh, and you're jumping the gun calling him that. You could be disappointed. I mean, I think that's fair. But given that he was the number 2 pick, we've seen so little so far. But again, to call him a bust, that is way too soon. I asked Steve Kerr during the pregame press conference yesterday, when can we expect him? Give us some sort of progress report. And we still have no date. There's word that we're probably going to see him in Santa Cruz first. My only concern at this point with Wiseman, I'd love your take because you're at the scene. I mean, and people should follow Kylen Mills at Kylen Mills because she goes to practices a lot. I see your videos you're posting. I just stare at those things and love them. The one thing that really perplexes me is why Wiseman isn't playing at Santa Cruz yet. At a minimum, he looks healthy. What's the delay there? Do you have any information or what's your opinion at least on that?
So what I was told is that the fact that he went on the road trip instead of going to Santa Cruz by a team source is that was a good thing, because I thought there was very interesting. There were a lot of different interpretations of the fact that he went on this road trip rather than going and playing in Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz had several games this weekend. I personally thought we were going to see him there kind of getting ready, but I was told that that was a good thing and that he was further along than the Warriors thought he was going to be at that point. And they decided they wanted him with the team and they wanted him scrimmaging with his teammates when he was able to at some of those practices. Now, you mentioned you asked for that update yesterday, and Steve Kerr did mention that he went back with some of the veterans to San Francisco yesterday and was able to get in some work with them. But I'm told that's a positive thing. The fact that they want him around and playing with his teammates. He played in his first scrimmage with Draymond Green last week. That is all a good sign. So I am encouraged by that and what I've been told. However, initially I was thinking he was going to be in Santa Cruz last week for sure. And I thought we might get to see him in some of the games this past weekend.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. And Kylen, you were just full of great news. I love it. We're going to find out about your background in just a moment here on Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. You can follow Kylen Mills on Twitter at Kylen Mills. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Twitter at Dog Surf Roadshow. Kylen, you work for KRON 4 as someone who's a born and raised Bay Areaite. How do you even pronounce that? I actually have no idea how you call that. Whatever. Bay Arean. Let's go with that for now. As a born and raised Bay Arean, KRON 4 was huge, right? They growing up, they were the station because they were the NBC affiliate here. And then that relationship somehow split about 20 some odd years ago. But KRON defied what everyone expected, which was that they were just going to kind of fade away. Like without the network backing you up, people didn't think they were going to survive, but they reinvented themselves as a news station covering the Bay Area. And here they are now, despite losing their relationship, still going strong. Gary Radnich, who was the sports director and anchor there for I don't know how many years. I was his producer for 3 years, Uncle Ratty. He retired some odd years ago, but you folks are still going strong. Again, you mentioned you're the jack of all trades. You're a Swiss Army knife for KRON Sports Department as a reporter, anchor, host. You got an NBA show there. Tell us about your background. From what I understand, I believe you play college soccer. You just mentioned you're from the Midwest, from the suburbs of Chicago. What did Kylen Mills do starting in college to get to the position she's in today?
All right. Thanks for asking. I love talking about this. And you mentioned that you teach, so I love passing this information along to aspiring broadcasters as well. Started out in college. I knew I wanted to study broadcast journalism. Luckily for me, my school actually had a broadcast journalism class in high school. So I took that and I kind of was like, hey, I kind of like this. I'm going to study this in college. So went to school for broadcast journalism, played Division II soccer, went to my school's called Lewis University in the Chicago suburbs, played a year of tennis as well. Just
oh, wow.
Get around a little
bit. I played tennis too. That's a sport in high school I did play. I was too short for basketball. I tried. I played for first 3 years, but I played tennis. I love tennis. Weird sport, but love it. Continue on, sorry.
Love tennis. Anyway, so played 4 years of soccer, but while I was in college, I did several internships. I actually interned at WGN and ABC7, which are both local news stations in Chicago. So my school was like 45 minutes outside of the city. Part of the reason why I picked it is because I wanted to be able to get experience in Chicago and to do internships versus going and playing at Western Illinois in Macomb, Illinois, which is literally in the middle of cornfields. So I was like, this is going to be great. I'm in close proximity to a big city, can learn from great broadcasters. I also did an internship at MTV in New York City because I was interested in entertainment news as well. Went there for a semester. So
let me pause you first. Let's pause. I'm going to pause you real quick here. Give me a story or two from MTV. You had to have crossed paths with some very interesting people during that time, right?
Oh yeah. So what I did when I was at MTV is I got to work on a lot of the post-show shows, like the reunion shows, basically. Got to do Jersey Shore, like the Road Rules, whatever, the challenges.
Yes. Yeah.
Teen Mom. So got to meet all of those people. I was basically like a little intern runner that it was like, get lunch for all the Teen Mom moms that are at the reunion. Like I would be running and grabbing them things, or they forgot this makeup item. And I literally, like, I remember one of the scariest things ever is that one of the teen moms, like, I can't remember what it was, but like forgot a certain mascara, had to have it, wouldn't use any of the ones our makeup artist had currently in the building. They're like, we need someone to go run, get this mascara. You find the closest, pharmacy, Target, whatever, get this, get there. And you need to be back in the next like 12 minutes. I have never run so fast in my life, Cyrus. I'm telling you.
God.
That is a story that sticks out in my mind. At the Teen Mom reunion show, I had to run and get one of the girls a very, very specific brand of makeup. Luckily, it was a drugstore brand. I didn't have to find a Sephora or something.
Oh my God.
I like sprinted, and it was like blocks away, and it was kind of hard to call a cab. I can't remember where we were shooting. We might have been in Brooklyn somewhere because they had all these little. We didn't actually shoot everything. My main office was down in the Viacom building, which is in, the main square in Manhattan, but in Times Square. But they would shoot it. They would find all these cool little locations to shoot, and they'd find a random apartment that was a loft that was used for shooting stuff. So we were in like we were like in Williamsburg. And we're like, find the closest pharmacy, and I'm like sprinting down the street to get this piece of makeup
for a reality's TV star, mind you. Like you're hustling. You paid your dues. I love that. Yeah,
right. So. Amazing. Got great experience there. But from there on out, I'll try to make this quick, but just basically climbed the ladder in the local news reigns. I started out in the Quad Cities, which is about 2.5 hours west of Chicago, right on the Mississippi border, right on the border of Illinois and Iowa. So right on the Mississippi River there. I got my feet wet, doing a little bit of everything. I did news, I did sports, I produced, I did literally, you have to do everything. So that's the biggest thing I would say for young aspiring journalists is really, really, really as when you're in college, like learn every single skill you can. Do every single position. Don't pigeonhole yourself and say, well, I only want to be in sports. I'm not going to, ever do news. I'm not ever going to do this behind the scenes job. I'm not ever going to, because I guarantee you early in your career, you're going to be doing it. You're going to be expected to do it well. So my first job, I did literally everything. Worked my way up, ended up moving to Oklahoma City, Lexington, and then out here to the beautiful Bay Area. No more cold winters. I'm all about that life. Now I'm getting to cover the Warriors, 49ers. So living the dream. My last job was mostly focused on UK. So for anyone who's watching March Madness, Kentucky basketball traveled to all of their March Madness trips the last several years. I was there 2017, 2018, 2019, got to do some specials, traveled with the football team. We used to go all out for their bowl games. So now here I am.
Amazing. I first of all, Kentucky is beautiful country. I'm very fond of, especially the mountainous areas. I love that story for the simple reason that there are so many individuals today who think that and that sense of entitlement, right? Where they think that, like I could just skip all the steps that people normally should take to achieve success. I don't need to work in a small market. You do. You gain perspective in all these steps. You learn new things in the process, and that makes you a better journalist, in my humble opinion. I really believe that by going to all these different places, you're gaining so much perspective and knowledge on different cultures. You're learning from different individuals who work at all these places and who you're interviewing. So kudos to you. I really do respect that path you take. And what's the ultimate goal? Like you're spoiled now. You're here in the Bay Area where we have the best weather in the country, arguably, depending on your preference. But what's your goal? Like, are you happy here? Is this it? Or are you aspiring to move on to New York, LA? Like what's the long-term dream?
Definitely love it here. I mean, my big long-term aspirations would be to get to a network at some point, but I'm definitely not in any hurry to leave here. I would not leave unless like the opportunity of a lifetime came knocking at my door. I mean, it really doesn't get better than the Bay Area when it comes to a sports town, aside from Chicago. And I'm a little bit biased, but they do kind of resemble each other in having really, really rabid fan bases, being huge sports towns with tons of teams and, storied franchises. So if I'm, looking at some of the best sports towns living in the country, yes, New York, LA, also great, but Bay Area and Chicago to me are right there. And the Bay Area fans are crazy.
Wow. I can't believe you're saying that. Like when I think of crazy sports fans, I think of Boston, I think of Philly. Yeah. Like we're like fans here. Just I hear what you're saying though. Like especially the Warriors. The Warriors were bad for a long time, and Oracle Arena was selling out night after night. They were certainly one of the most knowledgeable fan bases. Yeah, I hear you saying, but crazy-wise, like, Philly fans always trip me out. I mean, they throw
Yeah.
batteries at Santa, right? Or they boo Santa,
Yeah.
they throw batteries if they don't like a player, which is crazy. That's
However, have
interesting.
you been to a 49ers Raiders game? Because if you haven't seen crazy, that's
That's
crazy.
fair.
I went to the
That's
preseason
fair.
game. I went to the preseason game this season, and wow, yeah. Fans are
That's
getting
fair.
into it. I've heard
That's a
stories
rivalry.
in the past about the Raiders 49ers games and supposedly that they can't have them now because people are too rowdy. So I went to that preseason game, and maybe that clouded my judgment a little bit, but there were
No, that's
some
fair. That's fair.
rabid
That's fair.
football fans there.
That's fair, and I think they had to cancel Niner Raider preseason games for a number of years
Yeah,
because of how
that's
crazy it started getting. And then Giants Dodgers in their heyday, especially when the Giants were playing a Candlestick, I saw fights everywhere in those games. Yeah, so I hear what you're saying. That's a fair comeback.
Fun fact, I just tweeted this out last night, but the Warriors are set to have the highest viewership on a local network out of all of the NBA for the 5th time in 6 years. And not only are they beating other local networks as far as viewership goes, but like doubling. Like the Warriors are bringing in a 7.4 rating, and the next closest was the Cavs, but they were in like the 3.6, like doubling.
Wow.
Yes. If you look at my Twitter, I have the exact stats posted, but literally the next closest team as far as viewership goes of their local or regional network that airs their games, it was the Cavs, and they were like 3.7. The Warriors at 7.4. Like that's how
incredible.
much fans have been watching, and 5th time out of the last 6 years. And they had some down years in the last 6 years. Fans still watched, still had the highest viewership as far as local ratings go. So I think that also explains we see a lot of Warriors games in the national. You know, they get picked up nationally because they know that people watch the Warriors, which is pretty cool.
You're absolutely right about that. And the Dub Nation loves their team, and the nation loves Steph. I think Steph's at the forefront of that. But yeah, this Warriors team is popular. There's no doubt about that. When you say market share, I think you're referring to what, like 7.4% of the total Bay Area media viewing audience. That's what it represents.
Exactly. And it represents a certain number of people that I don't know the offhand. But yeah, so for example, it'd be like a percentage of total households with TVs.
Incredible. No, I love that. And you're covering this team. And I think the Bay Area is stoked to have you, Kylan. And when you talk about your Twitter account, people can follow you there at Kylen Mills. I hope to have you back on soon. I really do, man. This was fun. And best of luck. I want you back on soon. This is not just me saying that to be nice. Let's do this again in a week or two.
Do it. I'm pointing at you. I'm putting this on you.
Yeah, it's all on me, and I'll take that responsibility proudly. Kylan, it was such a pleasure. I hope to meet in person soon at one of these Warrior games. I don't leave my house often, but when I do, I'm going to Chase Center. So I hope to see you there. And yeah, I love it. And again, you can watch Kylen Mills on KRON 4 and follow her on Twitter at Kylen Mills to get all the latest updates. Even if it's just for those practice videos that you post, I love that. But you're obviously posting a ton of information on there and just entertaining content. And you can follow me on Twitter, Dr. Frocho, and this program at Twitter at Locked On Dubs. Thanks for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. Dieter and I will be back tomorrow at it to recap that Clippers game. And Kylan, you're joining me soon for sure. Now make your second listen Locked On NBA, Locked On experts covering the biggest stories around the NBA every Monday through Friday in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. Kylan, thanks again. And for everyone else, we'll see you soon. Take care. My pleasure. Thank you.